Before hashtags, before viral clips, before algorithms decided what truth looked like, there were voices so powerful the system tried to erase them. Not because they were violent, not because they were reckless, but because they refused to be controlled by approved narratives. These were people who didn't ask permission to question power. Tonight isn't about glorifying rebellion. It's about understanding influence. Because when you understand why these people mattered, you'll understand why conversations about race, injustice, and power still feel unfinished. Welcome to Inside the Logic, and I'm your host, Mindful G. And tonight, we're unpacking 4 voices they tried to silence, but never could. Malcolm X didn't start where he ended. That's the part of history that loved to skip. He grew up under constant threat. His father was killed after organizing against white supremacist groups. His mother, overwhelmed and unsupported, was institutionalized. And as Malcolm entered adulthood, already angry, already distrustful, already disillusioned, but prison changed him, not by softening him, but by disciplining his mind. While incarcerated, Malcolm educated himself relentlessly. He read history, philosophy, religion, and politics, and by the time he emerged, he was one of the most articulate speakers of his era. He became the most visible national spokesperson for black self-determination in the early 60s with the Nation of Islam. He also helped shift the conversation from passive resistance to self-respect and self-defense, which forced America to confront racism outside of polite language. He later founded the Organization of Afro-American Unity, connecting the Black American struggles to a global human rights movement. Now, what makes Malcolm dangerous wasn't anger. It was evolution. After traveling abroad, he began building bridges across race and ideology. He openly corrected himself when new information challenged his old beliefs. And that, people, was his real legacy. Malcolm didn't teach us to hate. He taught us that growth is revolutionary. Now, Assata Shakur exists at the intersection of race, gender, and power. And yes, she was the godmother of the late Tupac Shakur. Assata wasn't just targeted as a political dissident. She was targeted as a black woman who refused to be quiet. Her case became symbolic of how the justice system treats those it already suspects. She was surveilled, arrested, and ultimately convicted under the circumstances that many legal scholars still dispute. Now, whether people agree with her actions or not, her case revealed something bigger. Justice is not experienced equally. And she still made great impact on our race's progression. She became an international symbol of political asylum and resistance. She authored Assata, an autobiography and foundational text in black feminist and abolitionist thought, which I recommend you all read. She helped exposed COINTELPRO tactics and government surveillance of black activists, forcing public discussion about political prisoners in the United States. Her writings don't glorify violence. They focus on human cost, loneliness, fear, identity, and survival. Assata's story forces an uncomfortable question. If the system decides who you are before trial, is justice even possible? This next revolutionary most don't know. His name is Fred Hampton, who was only 21 years old when the Chicago police, allegedly sanctioned by the FBI, assassinated him in his sleep because he was doing something rare in American history. He was uniting people across racial and economic lines. He understood something early. Poverty was a common enemy. He was the leader of the Black Panther Party Chicago chapter. He organized free breakfast programs that fed thousands of children. He led community health initiatives, built the Rainbow Coalition, uniting poor Black, white, and Latino communities. And he reframed the Black Panther Party as a community-based survival movement. And Fred Hampton wasn't silenced because he was violent. He was silenced because he was effective. He showed that unity threatened power structures more than division ever could. That's why his assassination still haunts American history. Fred Hampton's life reminds us that solidarity is dangerous to those who benefit from our separation. Angela Davis represents a different kind of threat. Not fists, not guns, but ideas. As a scholar, activist, and professor, she challenged the logic behind prisons, punishment, and control. She became a global voice on prison abolition and systemic justice. She taught at major universities, influencing generations of thinkers, sparked international movements during her arrest and acquittal. She authored multiple influential books on race, gender, and incarceration. Angela Davis forced people to ask, why do we punish instead of heal? Why do prisons expand while communities collapse? And who profits from incarceration? She proved resistance doesn't always shout. Sometimes it educates until the system can't ignore it. Now, they weren't the same. They had different ideologies, different strategies, different personalities, but they all shared one thing. They rejected the reality they were handed. They didn't ask to be accepted. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't simplify their truth. And that's why history keeps trying to silence their messages. Because Black solidarity is harder to control. And these stories aren't just history lessons. They're mirrors. They ask us all, how do we respond to injustice today? Do we evolve as we learn more? Do we challenge systems or just complain about outcomes. And you don't have to agree with everything they've said or follow in their paths, but understanding them and their message gives context to the present. This is Inside the Logic, where Black history is created every day so it can never be relegated to 1 month. Because the past doesn't repeat itself, it adapts, evolves, and continues to create. Until the next time, peace.